So let me ask you something. Have you ever been on a software project that just felt, well, chaotic, where you weren't really sure what progress was being made, and deadlines were just this constant source of stress? Yeah, if that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dig into a systematic way to bring predictability, productivity, and honestly, a bit of calm back into software development. And this quote right here, it hits the nail on the head. It's so easy to point fingers at technical problems, right? But the real monster in the closet is often just complexity. When we try to build these massive monolithic features all in one go, it just leads to confusion, finding problems way too late, and yeah, sometimes failure. This idea is going to set the stage for a totally different way of thinking. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by busting a huge myth about what the word iterative even means. Then we'll dive into a three-pillar system that makes it a reality. We'll see what a day in the life of a developer actually looks like with this system and really get into the weeds of why focusing on just one thing is so powerful. From there, we'll look at the incredible feedback loop this whole thing creates, and we'll wrap it all up with a simple way you can test drive this for yourself. Okay, first up, let's tackle this big misunderstanding. We throw around the word iterative all the time in the software world. But what are we really talking about? Well, it turns out most teams aren't really doing it at all. And this slide just lays it out so perfectly. On one hand, you have what teams say. Oh yeah, we're iterative. But then you look at what's actually happening. They're assigning these huge 2-week feature branches that just hang out there in isolation, not getting merged until the very end of a sprint. That isn't iteration. That's just batching your work into a big bang integration. All you're doing is hiding the risk and the surprises into the last possible second. It's the illusion of being iterative, with none of the actual benefits. So what's the real deal? This is it. True iterative development is all about building software in tiny, complete, and, this is key, potentially shippable pieces. The goal, the standard, is that a single task moves all the way from to-do to done within a single workday. That's the heartbeat of this entire process. Okay, so a daily rhythm sounds great, but how in the world do you actually pull that off? It's not magic, and it's not just about trying harder. You need a system. And this framework we're talking about, it's built on 3 core pillars that make this whole thing possible. And this whole system, it stands on these 3 pillars that actually reinforce each other. First, you have something to handle the backlog, which solves the problem of breaking work down. Next, you have a special kind of Kanban board that solves the actual execution of the work. And finally, you have what's called a Scope Sentinel, which solves the problem of discipline. They're not just separate tools. They work together in a cycle, and each one makes the others even stronger. Pillar number 1 tackles what is, let's be honest, probably the hardest part: decomposition. How do you take a giant, fuzzy idea like build payment processing and break it down into 20 or 30 distinct one-day tasks? It's a massive challenge. This is where you need an intelligent, systematic approach to create a super clear, actionable roadmap right from the get-go. Next up is the focus Kanban. This pillar is all about execution, and its golden rule is deceptively simple: one person, one task, at a time. No exceptions, no juggling. By moving a single piece of work through a very clear 6-step workflow, you eliminate all the noise and you get absolute clarity on exactly where everything is at any given moment. And the third pillar, the Scope Sentinel, is all about discipline. Think of it as the guardian of your timeline. It treats your delivery window, let's say it's 90 days, as a non-negotiable constraint. So when new ideas or extra tasks pop up that threaten that deadline, it doesn't wait for a 5-alarm fire. It flags the risk immediately, forcing a calm, rational conversation about trade-offs while there's still plenty of time to make one. Okay, so that's the big picture, the high-level system. But what does this actually feel like on the ground? For a developer who just sat down at their desk on a Tuesday morning. Let's zoom in. So their day starts by pulling exactly one task from the to-do column. They move it to in progress, and that becomes their entire world. They're not thinking about anything else. Once it's coded and they've tested it, it moves over to QA for a review. Then it goes to validation with a product owner, and only after it's passed through all of those gates does it land in done. By the end of the day, one complete piece of value has journeyed across the entire board. It's not flashy, it's just relentlessly, predictably productive. Now, that one task at a time rule, I know, it can feel a little weird. Aren't we all supposed to be expert multitaskers? Isn't that what makes a good developer? Well, let's talk about why this super focused approach is actually the fastest way to get things done. Think about this for a second. It's a pretty staggering number. If you have a feature with 10 different tasks and all 10 of them are 90% finished, you have delivered exactly zero value. Nothing. Because none of it is shippable. Multitasking creates the illusion of being busy and making progress, but single tasking is what actually delivers completed valuable work. See, there's this hidden tax to multitasking that nobody talks about. Every single time you switch contexts from one piece of code to another and back again, you pay a penalty. You lose focus. You have to ramp back up. That's cognitive waste. It's just wasted energy. By getting rid of that switching, like you see here with the focus approach, all of your effort, 100% of it, goes directly into productive work that moves a task closer to done. But this system isn't just about moving faster. It's about learning faster. This daily rhythm of getting things done creates an incredibly powerful feedback loop. And that loop has a compounding effect on the quality of your product over time. And this timeline here makes it crystal clear just how tight that loop is. A decision that gets made on Monday can be coded on Tuesday, tested by QA on Wednesday, and put in front of a real user for validation on Thursday. Think about that. If you made a mistake or a bad assumption, you find out in days, not in months. Imagine the power of being able to course correct that quickly, over and over again. That right there is how great products get built. This all sounds great in theory, I get it. But the only way to really know if this is a good fit for you is to just try it. So let's wrap up by talking about how you can run a really simple one-week pilot with your team. The steps are really straightforward. First, pick just one feature. Then, spend the time up front to really break it down into genuine single-day tasks. Set up a simple 6-column board. You can do this with sticky notes or any digital tool. Then, for just 1 week, be an absolute stickler about that single task focus rule. At the end of the week, just take a step back. Count the number of tasks that made it to done and just look at the clarity of your board. The results will probably speak for themselves. So let's just end with this question. What would change for your team, for your project, for your whole company? What would it be like if you replaced all the guesswork and the boring status meetings with a clear, honest, and undeniable signal of forward progress every single day? What could you build then?